Meanwhile, Drew is completely shocked and enraged and wants to know how the heck something like this can happen. He's absolutely stunned in court. Meanwhile, Carly Corinthos Spencer asks Jack Brennan how he could keep her in the dark about Jocelyn Jacks. I wonder if John can convince Carly not to dump him. She's basically going to give Brennan a chance to tell the truth and explain himself. We'll see if he can keep close to her or if he's about to be dumped like a hot rock. Brooke Lynn Quartermaine is holding a community gathering at the Quartermaine estate so that Ronnie Bard can meet the movers and shakers in Port Charles. Stella Henry is there. Tracy Quartermaine insisted on coming to the tea party, and Brooke Lynn wants Ronnie to feel part of the family so she won't up and sell the house. They want you to believe Michael did it. But what if the real shooter is hiding in plain sight? In the ever-expanding mystery of Drew's shooting, the list of suspects reads like a soap opera writer's dream board, except even they might struggle to justify some of these decisions. Let's start with the obvious. Nina didn't do it. She can claim, confess, or crumble all she wants, but everyone knows she's innocent of this particular mess. The real intrigue lies elsewhere, namely in Willow's increasingly suspicious halo tilt. The music ring that came through Drew's phone wasn't ominous ambiance. It was Scout calling Willow. Convenient, isn't it? Willow was at Drew's house, the gun appeared, and suddenly Drew is bleeding while she's missing. Her aim may be questionable, but her motive isn't. Retaliation disguised as reconciliation is a classic move, and if revenge were a sport in Port Charles, Willow would at least make the playoffs. Ronnie is telling Brooke Lynn and Olivia Falconeri that things are about to get fun, and Stella is warning Tracy that she may have some trouble on her hands. Plus, Jordan Ashford figures something out. Now, I wonder if this is that Portia Robinson is sleeping with Dr. Isaiah Gannon, or if Jordan somehow suspects that Portia is pregnant. Maybe she notices some symptoms. I mean, she knows what a liar that Portia is, so it'd be pretty interesting if Jordan figured it out. We know she loves to threaten Portia about her secret keeping. Tuesday, October 21st, Alexis Davis gets a very tempting offer. I don't know if this is Rick Lansing circling back around looking for a payday, or maybe it's from Drew or Nina asking her to represent Willow. Tracy and Ronnie's battle heats up, and I wonder if Tracy has Marco Rios officially file a lawsuit against her for fraud, stuff like that. Portia confides in Isaiah on Tuesday. I feel like she probably won't tell him about the pregnancy, not just yet. Enter Michael, eternally stationed in the shadows of moral ambiguity, apparently parked outside Drew's place, watching. He supposedly saw Willow leave, then gallantly retrieved the weapon, only to plant it at Elizabeth's house. Because nothing says innocence like tampering with evidence before breakfast. Tracy's cameo was equally suspicious. She saw Michael leaving Drew's, setting the perfect stage for the next layer of chaos. And then there's Chase, blissfully delusional and embarrassingly transparent in his defense of Willow. Perhaps Anna should put him on leave, if only to spare the audience from his misplaced chivalry. As for Drew himself, dirtbag seems to be the most consistent descriptor across all narratives, a rare moment of consensus in Port Charles. The theory that Drew orchestrated his own shooting to frame Michael for attempted murder is almost too fitting. After all, why let reality interfere with a perfectly good plan for vengeance? I do wonder if she might tell him that she thinks that the blackmail that Drew had on her is now gone. Lucas Jones is bickering with Lulu Spencer. Could be about Britt Westbourne. Could be about Nathan. Who knows? Kai Taylor tells Curtis Ashford that he's sorry. And I wonder if that is forever believing in Drew telling him about Portia and Curtis's plans, just even giving the congressman the benefit of the doubt. Wednesday, October 22nd, Valentine gets a visit at Steinmore from somebody surprising. Now, Jack's already been there. Charlotte Cassadine's already been there. Lulu's already been there. I do think if Anna Devane showed up, it would surprise him. And she might simply because Brennan won't give her any answers about anything, and Valentine probably will. Also on Wednesday, Carly gets some food for thought. And maybe it's about Jocelyn being in the WSB. I don't think Jocelyn is going to quit. We'll see. But if Michael truly set up Willow as retribution, that would be cruelty wrapped in strategy. And even for him, that's saying something. The show's direction is transparent. The writers clearly want viewers to side-eye Michael. His defensiveness during questioning practically screams guilty, but his continued cooperation hints otherwise. Meanwhile, Nina's self-righteous retelling of events has only tightened the noose around Willow's already fragile alibi. As for the periphery, Lulu's eavesdropping, Bonnie's spiked tea, and Ronnie's odd reaction to Martin, they all feel like the decorative clutter before the real twist drops. One thing is certain, in a town where everyone's innocent until proven guilty, or until they get a flashback montage, Drew's shooter may not stay hidden for long. But if motive counts for anything, Willow should start rehearsing her courtroom composure. Every woman in Port Charles deserves better. Yes, even Britt. But Brennan does talk to Joss on Wednesday, and this could be about Carly finding out the truth. He may want to know if she told her, which she didn't, and Jocelyn doesn't know her mom knows. So, this should be pretty revealing in terms of conversations. However, Jack may want to know why she spilled to Carly about Vaughn being in the WSB. Tracy's on the defensive, probably because of Ronnie. I do wonder if the family objects to her filing a lawsuit against Monica Quartermain's sister when she made her wishes clear. Nobody else but Tracy seems to think the will is fraudulent. Emma Scorpio Drake and Gio Palmieri hatch a plan on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, October 23rd, Harrison Chase is really stunned by something, and it may have something to do with Willow. Cody Bell gets to know his new boss. Now, Ronnie inherited the house and the land where the stables are, but Michael got the horses. Drew Kane isn't looking for love. He's looking for his next victim. There comes a point in every soap villain's life when even the most forgiving audience starts rooting for a coma instead of a comeback. For Drew Kane, that moment arrived ages ago, and yet here he remains, smugly smirking his way through Port Charles as if his sheer mediocrity were a romantic asset. The only real question left is which unfortunate woman will be thrown into his orbit next. Because let's face it, General Hospital is clearly keeping him for the long haul, and apparently, someone must suffer for that decision. Let's start with the obvious, Willow. Their relationship is less love story, more transaction. She's using Drew for power and protection. He's using her to torment Michael, and together, they generate about as much chemistry as two tax forms stapled together. But Cody already knows Michael, so I tend to think this is him having a little bit of FaceTime with Ronnie. They may actually like each other. We'll see. Willow gets together with her new criminal defense attorney. Unless they're bringing in an extra, there's not a ton of lawyers in town, so it may be Alexis. I mean, Rick is her custody attorney, so I tend to think, but he did represent Ava Jerome in that criminal matter, so we'll see. But it's got to be Alexis or Rick, unless they brought in somebody spare. Drew is making legal threats, and Christina Corinthos Davis is snooping. On Friday, October 24th, we have got Brooke Lynn getting some information that's bittersweet. And Gio may be moving back into the Q mansion, but not to get to know her, simply because he wants to date Emma. So, he needs a little bit of distance there. And Ronnie did invite him. The second Willow realizes she no longer needs his status, she'll go crawling back to Chase, who, for reasons unknown to science, will probably still be waiting. Carly and Nina? Absolutely not. Both would sooner wrestle a live snake than revisit that disaster. Alexis and her daughters, Christina and Molly, barely tolerate him because of the Scout debacle. Jordan and Portia can't stand him for what he's done to Curtis. Ava should hate him for the mess he made of Trina's life. And the younger women, Joss, Emma, Trina, are all far too young and far too aware of how toxic Drew is to even consider him. That leaves no one. Well, no one currently breathing in Port Charles who doesn't already despise him. Perhaps the writers could dig up a forgotten ex like Lulu or Hayden Barnes. Lulu would reject him on sight for meddling in Laura's mayoral office. Hayden, on the other hand, could actually work, if only because she once pretended to be his wife. Also, this week, Nathan is up at the WSB office meeting with Brennan. They are looking at a tablet. They're looking kind of stressed. So, I do wonder if this Nathan-looking person is going to answer Jack's questions. Honestly, I'm very interested in their interaction, because I still think that's Peter August in there. Implanted memories, something like that. Jason Morgan is very supportive of someone on Friday, and Lulu reconnects with Nathan. He obviously owes her thanks since she found him at the car wreck site. And Drew may be getting a new ally, while Michael is kicking his anti-Willow plan into an even higher gear. The week of October 27th through the 31st. Again, this is the first 2 days of November sweeps, the 30th and the 31st. So, things are definitely swooping into high gear. Willow and Drew are plotting on how to shut down Michael. Charlotte tries to warn Rocco Falconeri about avoiding Britt, but I doubt he will listen. There's delicious irony in watching two scammers find comfort in mutual corruption. Then there's Britt. Drew and Britt would be the perfect storm of arrogance and opportunism, a pairing so venomous it might actually entertain. Picture it: the Britch versus the bully, sniping over cocktails while plotting how to extort half the town. It's grotesque, but at least it's lively. Others have floated ideas like Jordan, too smart, Christina, too unstable, or Ava, too self-respecting, surprisingly. Each pairing reads less like romance and more like a social experiment in masochism. Honestly, Drew might not deserve a partner at all. His interactions with women have turned increasingly predatory, less leading man, and more corporate stalker. The man collects blackmail material like other people collect coffee mugs. It's no wonder the only plausible storyline left for him involves brain damage or a full-blown psychotic break. Also, in these 2 weeks, Jocelyn wants to stay with the WSB. She may have to fight Carly about it. You know, Carly was sidestepping around and didn't directly confront her. Britt and Jason are dancing around each other, but if he wants Britt in his life romantically, he's going to have to change things between him and Carly. Nina is desperate to save Willow. Dante is stunned at the depths his brother Michael has sunk to. Ronnie needs to lawyer up. Reportedly, it'll be Martin Gray representing her. Tracy wants Cody's loyalty, but he's probably going to be friendly with Ronnie because they seem like the type that would get along. And Carly is ready to threaten Vaughn and Brennan to keep Jocelyn safe. And just for a recap, I'm going to tell you the Emmy winners from General Hospital. A couple of videos ago, I did all the winners, but just if you didn't see that video, there were Ayoja wins for GH. They won more than any other soap. Best guest star, Heather Weber. Heather. And if karma has a sense of humor, Sidwell's blackmail will finish what prison couldn't. Watching Drew finally lose his grip, his power, his allies, his delusions of grandeur, might be the most satisfying romance arc he's ever had. One between a man and his downfall. Once Willow inevitably turns on him, perhaps even literally if the rumor she shot him proves true, Drew's love story will reach its poetic conclusion. No grand redemption, no tearful confession. Just one manipulative man finally outsmarted by the people he underestimated. In a town once built on passion and cliffhangers, Drew Kane has become the opposite of love in the afternoon. He's the commercial break everyone skips. Until the writers decide to either kill him off, recast him, or give him that inevitable soap opera brain tumor, Port Charles' Most Unwanted Bachelor remains its greatest cautionary tale. Because in the end, Drew doesn't need a new love interest. He needs a storyline that stops pretending he's worth one. And Best Supporting Actor, Lucky Spencer, Best Actress, Alexis Davis, and Best Writing and Best Daytime Drama both also went to General Hospital. Ever sat down to mock a soap opera, only to find yourself screaming at the screen 20 minutes later? Welcome to the club. There are many ways to inherit family traditions, recipes, heirlooms, trauma, but perhaps the most resilient of all is the afternoon soap opera. Generations have passed down General Hospital the way others pass down silverware, carefully, ritualistically, and with an unspoken understanding that it must never be discarded. The stories are strikingly similar. A grandmother or mother, glued to the TV, referring to her beloved programs as her stories, inadvertently inducts a child into the same melodramatic cult. Decades later, those same children find themselves doing the very thing they once mocked, racing home, logging in, or negotiating with streaming apps to catch the latest crisis in Port Charles. It's not so much an entertainment choice as a hereditary condition. For many, the initiation came through proximity. A mother ironing while all my children played in the background, a babysitter asking politely to watch her stories, as if the answer mattered, or a grandmother refusing to miss a single moment of Jesse and Steve in the hospital corridors. The television was the family hearth, and the soaps were the fire that never went out. Others stumbled into it by accident. A bored teenager channel surfing one summer before 8th grade, or a college student stranded in a dorm where everyone mysteriously cared about Luke and Laura's latest escapade. What began as background noise quickly turned into devotion, complete with taped episodes, magazine subscriptions, and impassioned debates over storylines like Rick kidnapping Carly or the eternal question of why Sonny is still allowed to roam free. Men, too, are not immune. Several confessed they only started watching because their wives or girlfriends did, only to find themselves just as invested, demanding explanations about who's dead, who's pretending to be dead, and who's married to whom this week. Once they start asking questions, it's already too late. The hook is set. Every era has its own entry point. The Luke and Laura mania of the 80s, the outrageous Days of Our Lives possession plot of the 90s, or the early 2000s Jasam romance that redefined teen obsession. No matter the decade, the formula works the same way. A mix of absurdity, suspense, and just enough sincerity to keep viewers emotionally blackmailed for life. There's also the communal aspect. Before streaming fragmented television into solitary binges, soaps were the original social media. Viewers discussed the previous day's betrayals in classrooms, offices, and grocery lines. Soap Digest covers lined checkout aisles like tabloids of the gods, while coworkers huddled around water coolers to theorize about villains with weather machines. Today, that camaraderie still exists, even if filtered through nostalgia. Fans who once mocked their parents' devotion now realize they've become them. They can quote plot lines from decades ago, recall characters long dead, and still feel personally affronted by network cancellations. For many, the show isn't just escapism, it's continuity. A living connection to mothers, grandmothers, and childhood living rooms. General Hospital may change faces, writers, and storylines, but its legacy remains untouched. It's the most enduring emotional inheritance television ever created. Each viewer's story begins differently, through boredom, curiosity, or family tradition, but ends the same way, a lifelong commitment sealed by sentimentality and scandal. In the end, no one truly starts watching General Hospital. They simply join a generational chain of addiction disguised as family bonding. And once you're in, there's no getting out, only commercial breaks. Stop pretending Port Charles has consequences. Nobody stays dead anymore. And it's ruining the drama. If the writers of General Hospital ever decided to throw logic, continuity, and the laws of nature out the nearest hospital window, they'd find no shortage of volunteers eager to reanimate half the town. The fantasy casting call reads like a seance guest list. Esme, Nell Benson, Heather Weber, Julian Jerome, Olivia Jerome, Cyrus Renault, Xander Smith, but only if Chad Brannon returns, naturally, and a cameo from the eternally unkillable Stavros Kassadine. The dream scenario? A full-blown villain convention where chaos reigns, morality flees, and Port Charles collectively reconsiders why it doesn't have stricter security. There's a kind of gleeful absurdity in wanting to resurrect everyone who ever met a dramatic end. Some picks make narrative sense. Cyrus could manipulate the entire town with nothing more than a smirk and a Bible verse, while others are pure nostalgia, like Morgan Corinthos and Xander Smith, who were less characters and more emotional trauma delivery systems. And then there's Nell, the soap equivalent of a natural disaster. Unforgettable, infuriating, and inevitably returning. Of course, resurrection logistics are rarely the problem in Port Charles. Death is a revolving door, and pregnancy remains a perilous expedition, complete with kidnappings, cliffside births, and the occasional car crash for good measure. Children barely survive their first storyline before vanishing into the age-accelerating time warp that transforms toddlers into teenagers by summer sweeps. It's a miracle anyone dares to reproduce in this zip code. Still, even among the wish lists and lamentations, there's genuine affection for the show's lost chaos makers. Heather Weber's return seems not only plausible, but overdue. She's technically still alive, living cobalt-free in Arizona, and Allie Mills has the Emmys to prove she deserves another round of mischief. Meanwhile, calls for Helena Cassadine and Caesar Faison remind everyone that General Hospital used to treat villainy like an art form instead of a recycling program. Then there's Sam McCall, the one character whose death and decline still hit a nerve. Once the fearless thrill-seeker half of a legendary couple, she's been reduced to a cardigan-wearing shell of her former self, robbed of chemistry, storylines, and the excitement that made her worth rooting for. Whether fans want her back in Danger's embrace with Jason or simply back to her old self, the consensus is clear. Domestic bliss may be realistic, but it's unwatchable. In short, the collective fantasy is simple. Bring back the characters who made Port Charles pulse, not yawn. If the show insists on defying reality anyway, it might as well do it with flair, reviving the wicked, the wild, and the wonderfully unhinged. After all, in a town where death is a scheduling inconvenience, resurrection isn't just possible, it's practically tradition. General Hospital has become a cemetery of forgotten plots, and the writers keep shoveling. At this point, keeping track of General Hospital's storylines feels less like following a soap and more like chasing ghosts. Characters vanish, plots evaporate, and the writers seem to expect viewers to develop selective amnesia right alongside the cast. The show has become a patchwork of beginnings with no endings, threads left dangling like decorations from a party no one cleaned up after. Let's start with the most glaring disappearances. Where exactly is TJ? Apparently living his life off-screen, a charming euphemism for narrative negligence. His absence is particularly absurd, given that his mother, Jordan, walks the hospital halls daily without so much as a line acknowledging her missing son. A simple, "he's working at Mercy now," would suffice. But no, apparently, that level of continuity is too much to ask. Then there's the murder of John Cates, a storyline that collapsed mid-stride. The FBI supposedly took over, which in soap language translates to, "We've thrown this script in the trash." Likewise, Austin Gatlin Holt's death vanished into the same void, declared a Pawtuck case, and promptly forgotten. The writer's new favorite plot twist isn't murder or betrayal, it's abandonment. Meanwhile, General Hospital continues its baffling defense of Sonny Corinthos, who's now racked up a kill count that would make a mobster blush. He murdered Stone's brother in cold blood, left a child without a parent, and yet, somehow, remains the show's resident hero. Apparently, morality clauses only apply to characters the writers aren't personally attached to. Of course, the list of missing persons extends beyond the grave. Scotty Baldwin, one of the show's most iconic characters, has simply vanished without explanation. An impressive feat, considering the city's population seems to orbit the same 10 locations. Kin Schreiner's real-life surgery may account for his absence, but given the show's chronic inability to close loops, it's hard to tell where reality ends and lazy writing begins. With Liesl Obrecht back and the show desperately short on lawyers, Scotty's absence feels even more conspicuous. The real tragedy isn't the dropped storylines themselves, it's the ripple effect they cause. When stories lack resolution, pacing collapses, characters drift out of character, and emotional investment dries up. The Friday cliffhangers that once left audiences breathless have been replaced by narrative black holes that swallow entire arcs. The writers keep adding new characters like ornaments to a collapsing tree, never realizing the branches beneath can't hold the weight. Take the Pikeman organization, for instance. For months, viewers were led to believe there was a master plan, mob bosses, secret missions, a mysterious hierarchy. And then, nothing. The curtain dropped mid-scene, and the audience was left staring into the void, wondering if the writers themselves remembered what Pikeman was supposed to be. Even the show's moral compass has spun itself dizzy. John Cates was slowly transformed from a nuanced figure into a cartoon villain, all to justify his death at the hands of a so-called hero. When that hero kills an unarmed man in cold blood, one might expect consequences. Instead, the writers simply handed out narrative immunity and moved on. Kate's, bad. Hero, good. Viewers, get over it. The list goes on. Alexis's brief stint as a murder suspect, Cody and Dante's secret that went nowhere, an unexplained gun theft that somehow resolved itself, and a small army of children who have apparently been absorbed into the ether. Leo, Bailey Lou, Avery, missing, unmentioned, unmissed. Donna gets name-dropped regularly. Avery might as well have been written out via witness protection. And then there's Willow, quietly unraveling on-screen while everyone politely ignores her psychological red flags. The woman literally recalls stalking someone and yet insists she's perfectly fine. At this point, her storylines could double as case studies in untreated delusion. Even potential goldmines for drama, like TJ rebounding with Portia or the long-lost surrogate baby twist, are left to gather dust in the writer's room. Instead of daring, unpredictable storytelling, we get narrative amnesia dressed as mystery. It's not shocking anymore, it's lazy. Perhaps the most frustrating part is the wasted potential. The show once thrived on emotional complexity and edge-of-your-seat plotting. Now it thrives on confusion and convenient erasure. The writers appear more interested in juggling than storytelling, tossing up new arcs without ever catching the ones already in the air. At this point, General Hospital isn't a soap, it's a cemetery. Every abandoned plot, forgotten character, and unresolved arc lies buried somewhere beneath Port Charles, waiting for a resurrection that will never come. Here's the truth no one wants to admit. If Robert Scorpio had been commissioner in the 90s, Sonny's empire wouldn't even exist. If Sonny Corinthos had strolled into Port Charles back in the 1980s, during Robert Scorpio's reign as police commissioner, his mobster charm would have lasted about as long as a cold cup of coffee. The 1980s were a different era, when "the good guys win" wasn't a nostalgic slogan but an actual writing principle. Robert, with his signature moral backbone and no-nonsense approach, would have taken Sonny down without blinking. There'd be no deals, no coffee importer cover story, and certainly no decades-long criminal empire disguised as community leadership. Sonny would either be dead or in prison, and the residents of Port Charles would be sleeping easier for it. The irony, of course, is that Robert has returned to the commissioner's chair multiple times during Sonny's tenure, but not with the same results. Not because he suddenly lost his edge, but because the writers did. Scorpio's earlier days thrived on clear moral boundaries. Now, the show's sense of justice seems to depend on who gets better ratings. Sonny's perpetual survival isn't a triumph of character. It's a symptom of softened storytelling. The dissociative identity disorder detour. Why it doesn't work. As for the current fascination with mental health twists, the idea of giving Willow Tate a dissociative identity disorder storyline is ambitious, but deeply misguided. The last time DID made a meaningful appearance in Port Charles was through Connie Falconeri, Sonny's late fiancée, whose split personalities offered both dramatic tension and emotional tragedy. Trying to replicate that through Willow would be less a creative risk and more a desperate grasp at depth. For DID to make sense, the groundwork must exist: layers of trauma, confusion, lost time, or guilt. Willow, on the other hand, has shown none of these in any consistent or believable way. Her questionable actions have always been fully conscious, and she's never appeared detached from reality when committing them. A sudden diagnosis now would feel like an afterthought designed to erase accountability, not explore it. If anything, Drew Kane's character, traumatized by captivity and incarceration, would make a far more compelling candidate for such a storyline. His arc already carries the psychological residues such a disorder demands. But instead of exploring that potential, the writers appear more inclined to shoehorn pathology into whoever's convenient for the week's plot twist. In short, giving Willow an alter ego wouldn't redeem her. It would cheapen her storyline and insult viewers' intelligence. And if the goal is to hand Caitlin McMullen an Emmy, perhaps the writers should try giving her coherent material first. Here's the truth: Alexis isn't the voice of reason. She's the reason Christina's a mess. There comes a moment in every soap opera saga when the audience, weary from years of recycled dysfunction, stops asking, will they ever learn? And starts asking, who keeps letting them get away with this? Enter Alexis Davis, a woman so addicted to emotional damage control that she's turned coddling into a maternal reflex, and her eternally aggrieved daughter, Christina, who manages to make victimhood look like a competitive sport. When Alexis tells Ava, I think it would be good if we could get past the past, she may as well have been reading aloud from her own parenting manual, Deny, Deflect, and Hope Everyone Forgets. Her little olive branch speech was meant to be mature, introspective even, but what it really revealed was her chronic inability to stop enabling Christina. The apology to Ava was overdue, yes, but meaningless if it isn't followed by the same dose of truth directed at the real problem, her daughter. Christina's venom toward Ava didn't sprout from anything Alexis fueled. It came from Christina herself, her jealousy, her immaturity, and her deep-seated refusal to accept that her own reckless behavior had consequences. The death of the baby might be the centerpiece of her fury, but this animosity runs deeper than grief. It's entitlement wrapped in self-pity, served with a side of attitude. She lashes out, blames others, and when that fails, plays the misunderstood martyr. And Alexis? She lets her every single time. She's coated in the same moral Teflon as her ex, Sonny. Nothing sticks. No lesson lands. When Alexis finally admits to Ava that holding grudges makes us do desperate things, one almost expects her to glance in the mirror. Because if desperation had a family crest, it would feature the Davis women front and center. Molly, the lone voice of reason, should have cut ties months ago, though even that would likely be temporary. Soap opera logic dictates that accountability is merely a rumor in Port Charles. No one really pays. Ava, Christina, Alexis, Rick. Take your pick. They lie, betray, commit crimes, and by the next episode, someone's making tea and pretending it never happened. Now Cody's tangled in this mess, trying to be decent in a world where decency is a punchline. Meanwhile, Alexis floats through scenes acting as though this web of deceit is simply a family misunderstanding. She sounds unhinged, and worse, the show treats it as normal. Yes, Ava has done unforgivable things. Yes, Alexis has literal blood on her hands. But the prize for most unapologetic disaster goes to Christina, who keeps proving that emotional maturity is optional when your mother is willing to rewrite reality for you. The character is a walking exhibit of arrested development, and her mother, self-proclaimed moral compass, might as well be handing her the map to nowhere. Alexis once had spark, depth, even passion, before Julian's evil sister detonated that storyline. Now she's a cautionary tale wrapped in self-righteousness. Carly gets plenty of criticism for smothering Michael, but Alexis makes her look like a parenting prodigy. At this point, Christina's only chance at growth might be total collapse. Strip away the safety net, lose the luxury, face the mess she's made. Until then, she'll keep spinning, Alexis will keep apologizing for her, and the rest of us will keep wondering how long this cycle of denial can possibly last. Because in Port Charles, no one pays for their crimes. They just pass the blame, pour another drink, and call it closure. General Hospital spoilers and updates for the week of October 20th tease suspicious frame-ups, shocking pleas, and unexpected visits. Dante Falconeri suspects Michael Corinthos of a frame-up. Nina Reeves makes a shocking plea. And Valentine Cassadine gets an unexpected visit. Michael under fire. Nina's devastating plea. Valentine's surprising visitor. The faces of Michael, Willow Tate, and Dante are shown as Michael asks Dante if he thinks he framed Willow for the attempted murder of Drew Kane. Dante responds with a question as he asks Michael, "Did you?" Michael had a rather cold response in an earlier conversation, admitting he didn't care about Willow, in so many words, to Brooklyn Quartermain Chase. Michael did have the motive, the means, and the opportunity to place Edward Quartermain's gun, which was a match to the bullets extracted from Drew in Willow's room. But then, both he and his mother, Carly Spencer, had been at Elizabeth Baldwin's house previously, where Willow is staying. In the courtroom at Willow and Nina's arraignment, it's Nina's turn to make her plea, as Nathan West can be seen sitting on a bench behind her. Both Nina and Willow are in the courtroom, as is Drew. The judge's voice can be heard asking how Nina pleads. Both Nathan and her lawyer, Marco Rios, had advised Nina to give up her alibi because it had been disproved, which also took away Willow's alibi. Nina looks heartbroken, and across the room, Willow and Drew can be seen. It sounds like she's taking her lawyer's and her brother's advice. Drew is livid as he stands up beside Willow and shouts, "Nina, you be!" And Willow breaks out in tears. In the meantime, Brooklyn and Tracy Quartermain are at the Quartermain mansion, as is Veronica Ronnie Bard. The atmosphere is tense as Tracy tells Brooklyn, who looks upset, that woman is hiding something. Ronnie is upset as well, and it looks like this takes place at the tea party that Brooklyn set up to make Ronnie feel more welcome. It looks like Tracy and Ronnie get into a full-blown argument at the party, as Ronnie finally has her fill of her late sister Monica Quartermain's sister-in-law. Ronnie's fed up with Tracy and her entitled ways as she shouts, "Get out!" In the meantime, Valentine has a visit from a brunette woman in Steinmoor, and he seems a little blindsided and perhaps in shock at who it is. He stares at her as he sits down in the visitation area, saying, "I was not expecting to see you." Anna Devane has had a lot of questions about why Cesar Faison's 2 children suddenly returned from the dead. Might Anna be his visitor or someone else? Be sure to catch up on everything happening with GH right now. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to keep watching the soap on ABC to find out what happens next. General Hospital star Maurice Benard went on his State of Mind podcast again on Sunday, and he hosted actor Larry Romano. It took time to get to a discussion about mental health, but eventually the duo got there. If you don't know, the podcast focuses on addressing much-needed mental health awareness. When Maurice introduced Larry, he reminded folks that he's more than an actor. Actually, he's also a musician. Additionally, he mentioned roles by Larry in movies like The King of Queens and The Thin Red Line. The duo discussed rock music, other actors, and much more. However, at the 21:37 mark during the discussion, Maurice Benard asked, "Do you have any mental..." Interrupted by Larry Romano, the musician and artist opened up a bit about it. Larry told Maurice that he talked about it with his cousin Dominic. He added, "You know, we talk about people who experience depression." Then he explained that he lived in St. Louis but spent time working in Los Angeles. Happy in St. Louis, he explained that he had been working in LA. Next, he elaborated, saying, "LA's not really my home, right? And it's not really probably the best place to go to a place when you're a little down if you're not really home." "So," he said to his cousin, "I don't know, man. I'm kind of depressed." Well, Larry Romano elaborated on how his cousin reacted. He told Larry, "Don't say that. Don't say you're depressed. Don't say it." Larry's cousin seemed to think that if Larry was depressed, then that would make him depressed as well. So, he accused him of putting that in my mind. The discussion with Maurice revealed that Larry and his cousin chatted about how not speaking about depression for the last 3 weeks saw the depression lift. Thinking back, Larry was able to tell the ABC star, "All I had to do is have a conversation with my cousin, who's, not a psychiatrist." Asked by the real-life Sonny Corinthos what depression feels like to him, Romano said that it feels like... Next, Larry told the GH actor, "I don't watch the news anymore," arguing, "They just design news to make you argue with your friends." Then he claimed, "And I'm like, just not doing it, man." Obviously, the news makes him feel bad, so he avoids it. What helps, the GH actor heard, is that Romano's been listening to a Shaolin monk. Additionally, he listened to Bruce Lee stuff. Well, it seems that he learned to stay grounded. For example, he noted, "Stay like right here. You're in Los Angeles, California right now. We're sitting here together. This is great. Stay in the moment. Stay in the moment, man." In the discussion area, fans of the ABC show felt grateful that once again, Maurice Benard had a guest with ideas on coping with depression. One of them said, "Thanks for having Larry Romano on State of Mind." Do you enjoy the way Maurice gets his guests to open up about their mental health experiences? Does it help you? Let us know in the comments below, and remember to come back here for all your General Hospital cast news and updates. Love or hate? Nancy Lee Grahn, who plays the role of Alexis Davis on General Hospital. She's clearly an excellent actress. After all, she was nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award, and she took home a prize this year. However, she seems to be a bit polarizing, and reactions were mixed. Read on for more. Nancy won an award at the Emmys for her role as Julia Wainwright Capwell on Santa Barbara. Then back in 2012, she won another award for her acting on GH, and this year, she took home the award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Daytime Drama Series. When Michael Fairman TV shared the news on Instagram, many folks were delighted. In his caption, the well-known reporter said, continuing his praise, he also told GH fans, "It just speaks to Nancy's power as an actress. Much deserved." Nancy is now a 3-time Emmy winner, by the way. Most of the comments were nice, and many people love Nancy as Alexis Davis. Meanwhile, others admire her for her activism. Still more love her for her promotion of women. Hence, her slamming tributes to Diane Keaton, who emphasized the fact that she never married. However, not everyone jumped for joy about Nancy Lee Grahn's triumph. One follower wrote, "Of course the Emmy would pick the scene where she is screaming at God. Shameful! We live in a darkened world." Meanwhile, others put up nauseated emojis, and some folks felt that Laura Wright should have taken home the trophy. The fact is that Nancy can be a polarizing person. While she seems like a very nice mom to her daughter Kate, she never lets up trolling various folks in positions of governance who she doesn't agree with. Some folks feel so strongly about it that they think ABC should fire her. But activism aside, if she wasn't a good actress, certainly, it's unlikely that she'd have won her 3rd honneur at the Emmys. And if she chooses to use her fame and reach to push her personal opinions, does that take away her talent? General Hospital spoilers and updates tease that Caitlin McMullen opens up about Willow Tate's trials and the uncertain future that lies ahead for the character. It's hard to believe in a few short years a 3rd-grade teacher who escaped a cult has turned into a possible murderer. Who would have thought this is where Willow would end up? Reflects General Hospital's Caitlin McMullen. In our recent conversation, the actress, who marks her 8th anniversary with the show on Saturday, October 18th, encapsulated everything perfectly with 4 simple words. She's been through it. Fans will remember that when they first encountered Willow, she was a warm-hearted schoolteacher with a dark and complicated history that would gradually unfold. "I vividly recall my first day," she beamed. "I had the chance to work alongside Becky, Rebecca Herbst Elizabeth Baldwin, and Roger Howarth, ex-Franco Baldwin, and Austin Gatlin Holt, and I was incredibly anxious. But by the end of the day, I thought, awesome, I made it through." Since then, McMullen and Willow have embarked on a shared journey. Personally, I've gained a lot of insight into my own process and even the reasons behind my attraction to this work. As for Willow, she pauses briefly before confessing with a sigh. She's certainly feeling a bit lost these days. This observation makes sense, she explains, as art is a reflection of life. Willow began her journey in one direction and has now completely reversed course, McMullen observes. In life, you experience similar shifts. You encounter highs and lows, and through those experiences, you learn more about yourself. Regarding Willow, she still has much to discover. "I don't believe she has fully understood who she is or how she fits into this chaotic life she's navigating." Describing the situation as crazy barely scratches the surface. Willow finds herself entangled in a fierce conflict between Michael Corinthos and Drew Kane, 2 of Port Charles' most influential figures. One of her greatest struggles is figuring out whom to trust. Each time she believes she's placing her confidence in someone deserving, they let her down. Michael, Drew, Nina Reeves, the list goes on. Naturally, Willow is now confronting the most significant battle of her life, with everything, including her freedom, at stake. If there was ever a moment she needed a hero, or to step up as her own heroine, it is now. Be sure to catch up on everything happening with GH right now. Come back here often for General Hospital spoilers, news, and updates. General Hospital spoilers for the next 3 weeks, October 20th to November 7th. Hint that Halloween brings out the spooky in PC. Harrison Chase makes a shocking find, and Jack Brennan has a 911 situation. Let's take a look at all the mischief and mayhem, tricks and treats about to go down in PC. During the week of October 20th to 24th, Tracy Quartermain and Veronica Ronnie Bard ramp up their beef. It seems that Brooke Lynn Quartermain's ladylike tea party brings out the beast in the ladies. Elsewhere, Nina Reeves and Willow Tate's arraignment goes sideways. Drew Kane will do anything to help Willow, and thus begs Alexis Davis to take her case. Drew has bargaining power. He can nix the restraining orders and allow Scout Quartermain to see Alexis, which is a hard offer to reject. Meanwhile, Brennan calls Jocelyn Jax after Carly Spencer puts him on blast. Does he realize that she knows about Joss being in WSB? Carly has not admitted this and may say that she is furious about Vaughn, but Brennan is wise and warns Jocelyn. Jocelyn may strike at Britt Westbourne for blabbing, but it was Jason Morgan who snitched. Over at Steinmauer, Valentine Cassadine has a special guest that could change his life. An alliance may be offered to Valentin, giving him the chance to go after revenge on Brennan. Chase has a what's up moment that may involve Willow or Michael Corinthos. As for Michael, he gets darker when Drew considers adding a teammate to his revenge plan. During the week of October 27 to 31st, Willow and Michael's drama takes center stage, and Carly wants vengeance when it comes to Brennan and his betrayal. Elsewhere, do Cody Bell and Molly Lansing Davis elevate their romance? Definitely maybe. But Cody's keeping secrets about Rick Lansing's bad experience with his captors, this could come back to haunt him. Halloween is upon us, and that means tricks as well as treats in Port Charles. This may come in the form of someone making a second attempt on Drew's life. With all the costumes and goblins floating about this week, the perp could easily hide behind a mask. We should mention, however, that recent preemptions pushed some episodes back, so we may or may not see a delay in Halloween episodes, perhaps pushed to the week of November 3 to 7. Meanwhile, Anna Devane drills down on Cesar Faison's final project and how his kids may fit into it. She wants more intel on Britt, and especially Nathan West, but her digging could put her in danger. Red-hot General Hospital spoilers hint that Anna uncovers some earth-shaking news as this storyline moves forward. General Hospital spoilers and updates tease that Liesl Obrecht might undermine the Nathan West investigation if she is desperate to keep her son. Obrecht was ecstatic when she discovered that Nathan had unexpectedly returned to her. Given that Nathan had an open casket funeral where everyone witnessed the tragic devastation caused by Cesar Faison, Liesl never imagined that this day would eventually arrive. However, fans of GH are aware that Nathan has somehow returned to Obrecht, and she is absolutely delighted at the chance to reconnect with him. Unlike Britt Westbourne, Liesl does not hold Nathan accountable for his fabricated death, and the time he spent away, as he supposedly has no recollection of the events that transpired. Naturally, Anna Devane is resolute in her quest to uncover the entire narrative and understand Nathan's role in the ongoing Faison saga. Similarly, Jack Brennan is eager to gather details regarding Faison's last project and who has taken over his responsibilities. As Anna and Brennan draw nearer to uncovering the truth, Obrecht's concern is likely to escalate. Liesl may find herself increasingly anxious that the revelations brought forth by Brennan and Anna could jeopardize the blissful conclusion she has discovered with Nathan. Although Obrecht harbors resentment toward Britt, Nathan has encouraged her to direct her attention toward what truly matters. It's remarkable to note that Liesl has managed to reunite with both Nathan and Britt, which, not too long ago, seemed utterly out of reach. With Nathan standing by her side, Obrecht may gradually become more forgiving towards Britt and open herself up to the possibility of giving her another opportunity. We will also witness Liesl deepen her bond with Nathan and relish the presence of her cherished son in person. Obrecht is already acclimating to Nathan's return and wouldn't exchange that for anything. If Liesl senses that Brennan and Anna's probing could shatter that happiness, she may take measures to undermine their attempts. It's possible that Obrecht will choose to ignore the rest of the narrative as long as Nathan is by her side. Liesel might choose to turn a blind eye to any warnings related to Faison and focus solely on Nathan's return. General Hospital spoilers and updates tease that the identity of the mysterious partner of Cesar Faison, whom Jack Brennan wanted, is simply revealed. Valentine Cassadine either didn't want to tell Jack or possibly was telling the truth that he didn't know. But the only one alive is Jerry Jacks. Faison had few partners he really trusted when he was alive, and clearly, he didn't trust his son Heinrich Faison, aka Peter August, or he wouldn't have shot at him. As it turned out, he accidentally shot his younger son, Nathan West, who was presumed dead for 10 years, only to return alive recently to Port Charles. Valentine did tell Jack that Faison had a partner, and it was a partner he trusted. Given Helena Cassadine and Luke Spencer are both dead, that leaves Jerry. If Valentine does know the partner is Jerry, he may have a very good reason for not divulging his name, because he's Jocelyn Jacks's uncle. Valentine seems to have contacts around Port Charles who are leaking information to him in Steinmauer, so there's a possibility that he is aware Jocelyn was recruited as an agent. Jerry may not be experienced in cold fusion, like Professor Henry Dalton, but he definitely knows his way around a lab. He could even be Britt Westbourne's boss. C may just be an alias. GH viewers should recall that Jerry held Port Charles hostage some years back with a deadly toxin he put in the water supply. He also had Jocelyn kidnapped when she was a child and inoculated her with an unknown substance, and he's held her father, Jasper Jacks, at gunpoint. He worked with Faison and Liesel Obrecht and kept Robin Scorpio Drake hostage after her death was faked in a lab explosion as well. The last anyone had heard of Jerry, he escaped from Steinmauer, where Valentine is now, around 2019. Jerry being Faison's partner and carrying on his work makes perfect sense. He has the knowledge to create all kinds of chemical weapons, toxins, and possibly even a cure for Huntington's. Britt Westbourne may have been merely a guinea pig, forced into working on secret projects at the lab in Croatia, with Jerry planning to hold Huntington's patients hostage for the cure. One thing that is clear, and that is that Britt is scared of whoever that secret boss is, and that he'll show up in Port Charles. There's a good possibility that Nathan West, as well, was a guinea pig in some secret project of Faison's that Jerry took over. General Hospital spoilers reveal a preview clip has been released for Monday, October 20th, 2025. It shows Stella Henry warning Tracy Quartermaine. Veronica Ronnie Bard plans on having some fun at the tea party. Plus, the arraignment doesn't go the way Willow Tate expects. Keep reading, and let's talk about what is coming up in the next episode of the ABC soap opera. Let's start from the beginning. The preview clip begins with Stella hanging out with Tracy in the Quartermaine living room. As Brooklyn Quartermaine and Olivia Quartermaine get the tea party ready, Stella warns her friend. The woman tells Tracy that she might have some trouble on her hands anyway, pointing in Ronnie's direction. Over with Ronnie, she wasn't a big fan of BLQ's tea party idea. However, Ronnie needs to keep making fast connections and inroads with the Q family. Since most of them have taken a fast liking to Ronnie, Tracy might have trouble getting people on her side, as Marco Rios suggested. General Hospital spoilers for Monday, October 20th, reveal that the preview clip also shows Willow in court. The nurse faces the judge, but things don't go the way she hopes. Willow looks stunned, and Drew Kane's eyes bug out of their sockets. The congressman leans forward and asks Willow, "How the hell could something like this happen?" It honestly sounds like the judge is going to refuse Willow's bond or bail and send her directly to jail. Then, Willow becomes even more convinced that Michael is doing this to her and she will meet with a brand new attorney. Meanwhile, Nathan West urges Nina Reeves to take the plea deal offered by Justine Turner. Over with Dante Falconeri, he has a chat with Michael Corinthos. When Michael makes a bold statement, the detective pressures him to come forward and turn himself in. Also, fans will see today's episode feature Carly Spencer putting Jack Brennan on blast. The blonde demands, "How could you keep me in the dark about my daughter?" Of course, Jack might come up with a quick cover story or some crazy explanation. So, Let's see what this means for Jack, Carly, and Jocelyn Jack's futures. General Hospital, 2-week spoilers for Octu 20, 31 to 25. Anticipate Valentine Cassadine shocked, and Drew Kane raging. Monday, October 20th, we have got Nina Reeves and Willow Tate in court to be arraigned on the attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder charges, and everything goes off the rails. I wonder if there's going to be a witness against her or something because Michael Corinthos has something else in store. Meanwhile, Dante Falconeri, over at the Q Mansion, is telling Michael he has got to come forward and turn himself in. So Dante knows what his brother is up to, but he told him he's not a cop. He's his brother for the purposes of this conversation. And Michael does make a pretty gutsy statement, but I wonder if that's in court or if it's to Dante. Nathan West asks Nina if she's going to take the plea deal that the DA offered her. We'll see. She definitely wants to save Willow.